Welcome to the Distorted Realities Origins, the Mummy audio podcast. Here are your hosts, J-Rock and Frank Walls.
Welcome to the Distorted Realities Origins. This is J-Rock, and I'm here with Mr. Frank Walls.
What up, guys?
Mr. Valentine.
Greetings and salutations, friends.
So today's topic is the Egyptian curse, the curse of the mummy. And I'm watching the AI video. So by the way, this is an audio cast. However, if you're on the YouTube channel, what you're gonna see is that there is a AI video and some presentations that will be done during the period of time that you're watching when you're watching the show. For those of you who are listening, you could always go back to YouTube and check it out. Egypt. What is Egypt, right? To us, Americans, right? What is the first thing that comes to mind?
The pyramids.
The pyramids.
The curse of Ra.
The curse of Ra, right? So, and these are things that create a mystique and a lore, right? When I think of Egypt, I think of tales of old, hidden treasures, exploration, discovery, curses, mummies, scarabs all over, these little bugs called scarabs all over the place, right? I think of Boris Karloff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this curse of the mummy. And I was like, what is this curse, right? But in the research, we discovered that Egypt is more than just what we see on TV. So full disclaimer, we are Distorted Realities, J-Rock, Frank Walls, and Mr. Valentine. We do our research to the best of our abilities, and we're just presenting the facts. It's really up to you to decide if it is true to you or not. We don't pass judgment. We don't criticize anybody's thoughts or opinions, but rather we want to share our experience and our thoughts and what we've gathered, right?
Yeah.
Egypt is a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
It's very majestic in appearance. It is one of the origin stories to a lot of things that we come to know today.
It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, right?
Yes, the pyramids, that's right. So the goal today is to just talk about these mysteries and share what we gathered about these mysteries, which is a lot, by the way. We will do a presentation that talks about kind of a brief description of the origins and some of the other items. But then we're going to tap into these conspiracies, myths, legends, right? All in all, I'm just making sure that everything is working as intended. All in all, I think it's a beautiful segue for discussion. For those of you who want to participate and join the call, 904-803-7327. You can feel free to call whenever we're having the discussion. We'll gladly have you on. Get free merch.
Remember that we speak Spanish here too, so if you want to call us in Spanish, si nos quiere llamar en español, puede llamarnos al 1904-803-7327. Repito, 904-803-7327. Gracias.
So yeah, so the other thing that comes to mind is the Arabian Nights, Aladdin, genies, jinns, right? Even though they're separated,
parrot,
right?
I hated
Jafar. It's even though it's separated, right? Because it's a different tale. It falls in the same
category, I would say,
or category of mystique, right?
Yeah.
What was the name of the bird? Of Jafar Gasu, something like that?
I don't remember his name. All I remember is that he was annoying to me when I was younger.
Yeah,
when I was younger, I hated his voice.
He was the mean guy.
So, hope you guys enjoyed the AI video. It's just a short description of what we plan on presenting. been talking about. The video is over, so we're now going to go into our Egyptian origins presentation alongside with some nice little eerie background music. All right, folks. So there we go. Egypt, right? A lot of explaining needs to be done because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of questions as to how this was designed. These amazing megalithic structures were designed, right? How did they get to the point where there's these gods, right? There was a lot of open-ended questions. We know they exist, so we don't know how it got there, right? So here's what we found out. That area of Egypt that was settled, it was near the Nile River. It happened around 3150 BC. That's before Christ, right? The descendants or the people that migrated there were of sub-Saharan African descent. Right? So there's the African tie to Egypt. Of course, there is a river that flows through it. It's the Nile River.
The Nile River.
Right? And essentially what transpired is that a system was developed where you had kings, but then that king became a pharaoh. Right? Now, they're a polytheistic, they're polytheistic in their beliefs. They believe in multiple gods, right? These gods kind of resemble, you know, the animals that were at the time in their vicinity, right? So let's start with Horus and Set.
Yeah.
So Horus and Set, the Daybringer, the Nightbringer, right? And I'm just keeping it dummy proof, right? So people don't understand. So basically the story goes as follows. Horus brings up the daylight, engages into a battle with Set. And after once nighttime comes in, Set wins the fight, and then Horus comes back up, and the cycle keeps going and going and going. Right?
I would not want to do that ever in my life. That sounds very exhausting.
So there's these gods that are involved, and each one has something to bring to the table, so to speak. They have their own responsibilities. They have their own abilities to do things, to perform their duties, and the people in the Egyptian culture at that time laid reverence to these particular gods. And usually when a pharaoh was brought to the pantheon and becomes the pharaoh, they kind of ended up being associated with a specific god or deity during their reign, as I understand it. Could be wrong, but hey, the number's there, so feel free to call in. So now, you have these amazing structures, the pyramids, right? So the pyramids of Giza, right, is the main footprint that we all associate Egypt with, outside of what we call the Sphinx.
Yeah.
Right? Now, give me 1 second. I'm just checking here. Okay, so outside of what we call the Sphinx, these are structures that weigh millions of tons as a completed structure. Each stone could have weighed anything between 2.5 and 80 tons. All right, to really give you a picture.
Yeah.
The largest crane today can only lift 20 tons. Right? It's still a lot.
Yeah,
But the structures that you see in Egypt are not just big, large structures that were placed in the way they were, which geometry-wise, it's very difficult, right? Now, there's a lot of theories that go behind this, right?
they used Lego pieces. They carved like little Lego bottoms.
So, pretty much, right? But you have some theories that say that they created these giant sand mounds that had like these whirling hills, and they would push the sand with these logs, right? Some people debunk it and say, hey, but there's no trees there. You would have to go somewhere far away to get these trees, and then you're gonna have to roll them up and you're gonna need thousands, hundreds of people to just push that one stone. And then you have, of course, the distance between the ground level and the very top.
Yeah.
How do you build that, right?
Never been there, but from the looks of it, they look pretty tall.
They are. There are really tall structures.
I think that maybe the Egypt that we seen today, all desert looking alike, in that era, I think it was different. I think it was more green instead of more desert like it is right now.
So yeah,
That's an interesting take. I mean, if it was more green back then, I would want to know what happened to sand.
Yeah.
so for me, personally, it boils down to something. It's the how part. Because these things have they're battle tested. They've lasted and endured time. Now, mind you, this is sand, right? Sand does deteriorate over time. Now, notice how the pyramids you see today are a shell of what they used to be. They used to be smooth limestone with a golden cap on top. Then there's the other part of the equation, right? Why were these pyramids built? Now, generally, the rule of thumb is that these things are built so that people would go see the pharaoh after their passing, and they would bury the pharaoh there, and they would put him with all his gold and all his jewelry so that he can go to the afterlife. So the way it works is when you die, right, as a pharaoh, or if they actually kill you, but they take all your organs out. They put them in these things called canopic jars, right? And I hope I'm not butchering the name, but canopic jars. And they go through this embalming process to mummify you. They put this special salt on your body so that your body's completely dried. And basically they leave your riches, and they enclose the tomb so that when Anubis comes to pick up your soul, your body has to be there.
Yeah.
Now that's the part that I didn't understand till I learned it recently.
He measured your heart, right?
So
it's a feather or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically the rule is that when you're ready to go to the afterlife, they determine if you go to like heaven or hell.
It's like the scales of judgment.
The scale of judgment, right?
Yeah.
So you have a feather weighed against the apple, against your heart. If your heart outweighs the feather, if your heart outweighs the feather,
You don't go. No.
yeah. So the feather, even though it's the lightest thing in comparison to any organ, basically, if your feather weighs more, then your heart is of true or virtuous heart that did all the right things.
Yeah.
And then you can go into
The afterlife.
the afterlife.
You can go to the afterlife.
I mean, either way, you're gonna go to the afterlife, but
Yeah.
it's gonna depend which side of the afterlife
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go to.
I got a great fact here how the Sphinx lost her nose. It says that while a common misconception attributes the missing nose to a great Sphinx to Napoleon soldiers using it for target practice, the Sphinx nose was likely damaged by a fanatical Muslim ruler in 1380 AD, not by Napoleon's army.
That's interesting. So another giant monolithic relic that has been highly debated and speculated. The Sphinx is pretty much this giant lion type structure with a human pharaoh's face. The nose is kind of broken, and of course through time and deterioration of the face,
It was it was bound to happen.
So-
the nose was bound to fall off and such.
but here's the thing: why was it built, right? So, in between its paws, there's this tablet that's kind of depicting a specific pharaoh's ascendancy, I guess. That pharaoh, if I'm correct, was Akhenaten.
Go ahead and check.
Can you see who read the tablets? But I mean, the fact that, first of all, the pyramids themselves, right? They're riddled with mysteries. They have a lot of chambers that lead to these open-ended places. People are now discovering that the walls were sealed off to hide treasures and other and other relics. And then they also discovered that on the foundation of the pyramids, there were these columns
With coils.
with coils. Now, here's a fun fact for people that don't know: Egyptians were brilliant. To be in a place that today is considered an extreme location, they did a lot,
Yeah.
right? They were virtually artists of their time, right? They created the battery, right?
Yeah, there's been found on some of the pyramids, tombs, whatever. They find some stuff that when they try it out, there were batteries.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
they
light
created
bulbs.
batteries, and they also created light bulbs.
Yes.
So I guess who created the light bulb in the U.S.?
It wasn't. Well, he stole it. He stole it from somebody else.
He stole it from the Egyptians.
Right.
Also, referring to the tablet, the tablet is called the Dream Stele,
The Dream Stele, yeah, that's right.
erected by Thutmose VI between the paws of the Great Sphinx of Giza, which is an inscription that claims divine legitimacy for the pharaoh's kingship.
So that was covered, by the way. And he had a dream. He fell asleep near the Sphinx. He had a dream that if he was to dig out the Sphinx, he would be the next pharaoh, and he did, and he became the next pharaoh.
Wow.
Right?
That was Akhenaten.
No, that's Thutmose.
Thutmose, yeah.
Yeah. So now you have this mystery of the pyramid that it seems like it's one super powered battery, right? Now there was these special holes in the pyramids that would emit light. Now these things, you got to understand, they were also great astronomers. The Giza pyramids aligned to the star
Orion.
with Orion's belt, the star constellation. So it was their way of tracking where in the solar system they were. So when the light would penetrate, they knew that they were in a specific constellation. So they were actually doing astronomy. And how would they
they were
know
just
that
ahead
in
of the curve.
So
They
exactly.
were just ahead of everything at that time.
But that's the thing. How do you know about Orion's belt if nobody went out of space? Sometimes that's what I think. Sometimes that maybe this information came from outer space. You know what I mean? Because how you gonna know stuff that are over there from here? You know what I mean? It's like I don't get it, because I understand you see the sun and the moon and you see the stars, but you need like a telescope to see more and more. You know what I mean?
So here's the interesting part, right? I'm just looking at Facebook to make sure that people are able to see the show with no issues. All right, there we go. So now everyone's able to see it on Facebook. So we're on Facebook, we're on Rumble, we're actually recording for Spotify, and
Good.
and we're everywhere. So there's a lot of theories that goes into the idea of where this stuff is gathered from, right? There's a famous guy named Eric von Daniken. He wrote an amazing book called The Chariot of the Gods,
Oh yeah.
which kind of was a question, right? Like, how did they do this, or how did they figure these things out, right? It was more a questioning to see if somebody knew, right? Then years later, present day, we have ancient aliens. We have a whole slew of people that believe in something called the ancient astronaut theory, right? Which one of the biggest proponents of this is a gentleman by the name of Giorgio Tsoukalos, right? Has the really cool hair, and they have a meme on him.
Oh,
Alien,
gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
Big fan of the show. But basically, he's talking about that perhaps a traveler from beyond space, or a time traveler from a future period regressed back and gave them that knowledge.
I think the only thing that comes to my mind when you talk about that is, if that were the case, what do you guys think would have happened if that never happened? Do you think we'd be behind currently? Do you think?
So I will tell you, history always shows that some divine being gave something to humans? Who gave fire to humans in Greek mythology?
It was one of the gods that gave fire
Prometheus.
to Prometheus,
Prometheus,
yeah.
Right? Who was the light bearer that showed people in religious iconography, right? Or in this case, Christian or Catholic. Who was the one that gave light to humans? No. The light bearer.
The light bearer, yeah.
Who's the light bearer?
Yeah, Lucifer.
There you go. So history has a way of depicting that someone of divine or extraterrestrial origin
Extraterrestrial.
came and gave this knowledge. And those people paid a price for it, right? So if we go like a little further back, we could talk about Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah.
What was the fruit they ate?
They eat an
Apple.
apple. Whoa.
No,
yeah,
no.
We don't know if it was an
We're not talking about fruit, like the fruit itself.
Oh,
Or
no.
was that the knowledge, the tree of knowledge?
Yeah.
Exactly. And who gave them the fruit of knowledge?
The devil.
Right? So you kind of see that there's consistencies in any history that even predate before Christ, because Egyptians are before Christ, right? So therefore predates that period, that show that some divine entity has gotten involved. Now, go on.
I got Matt Mix in the chat. He said, Matt Mix, the Anunnaki, I think our history is fabricated. Egypt may have been built more recently
That
Good
we thought.
topic.
Matt, you're taking our thunder, Matt.
It's cement. And if
So-
your heart is too heavy, then you end up in Florida.
Oh, that's where we all are.
Uh-oh, God, heavy hearts. You know what
About
that
the-
means.
The Emerald Towers of Todd and the Ancient Aliens commentator.
Yes. So so now we have another series of problems, right? Outside of lifting up stones, now you got to get into precision. These things were cut to precision, right? There's a gentleman who actually measures these stones or how accurate they were cut.
Oh yeah, like laser cut. Like,
Right? These things were cut to precision. You can't even pass a paper in between them. That's how like really precise they were. So that means that they had an understanding of geometry and mathematics that even today we can't explain.
Wish they could teach me. My God, my math is horrible.
So
It says here that the material of the pyramids, including limestone, granite, and other stones, were sourced from quarries located both near the pyramid sites and further away, with limestone from Tura and granite from Aswan being transported by river barges. Wow. As the main body of the pyramid was constructed using locally quarried limestone, particularly from the Giza Plateau.
so I have one better.
Mhm.
I have one better. So let's go to the next slide because I think that this is going to give some more clarity. Let's close.
It says that the white limestone.
Here in Florida, Homestead, Florida.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
There's a gentleman by his name is Ed. I don't want to just make sure. Ed Leeds-Colnin, right? And he built the Coral Castle out of these stones that were very extremely heavy, all by himself. Now, if you can see the images on the slide, what you're going to see is that he created this device or contraption that was able to move stones. Now, no one ever saw him build this stuff. However, it was like almost overnight, right? He was able to do this stuff. Now, when they asked him the question, how did you build this? He said, and I quote, and I'm not quoting him verbatim because I don't remember off the top of my head, but he said that he knew the secrets of how the Egyptians built the pyramids. And that a group of kids saw and witnessed him levitating these stones and moving them using some kind of magnetic device that was emitting a certain sound.
Wow.
So interesting guy. Now the sad part is why he wrote this story, right? How this story came up. He actually built that for a woman he loved, and then is we having a problem? Just check on YouTube real quick just to make sure that there's no issues.
OBS being a bit silly.
Yeah, no, it got disconnected for a second, but it's due to the internet.
The interwebs.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make sure turn this off. So this guy built the Coral Castle using ancient techniques, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Is it still loading or is it playing? Just make sure. Yeah, we're good. We're throttling fine. All right, so we apologize. We're just checking to make sure that the audio is working correctly. So we're going to move on to the next piece, which is something that we wanted to talk about for a minute, which is a big one.
Ooh, conspiracy.
So the first Egyptian conspiracy, right? Apparently, Egypt was originally the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are biblical texts that reference a river with 7 entry points.
Yeah.
Just so happens that the Mississippi River does have 7 entry points. And the Nile River never did. It only had 3.
Wow.
Right? Number 2, if you go through the Mississippi River, there are names associated with Egyptian names.
We got the city of Memphis.
Yep. You have a Cairo.
There's a pyramid.
Yeah.
There's a mall like a pyramid over there.
That's the other thing, that in this area, they've already explored and uncovered plenty pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like this is not out there in existence. This is something that is true.
It's happening.
Right.
Or it's happened.
The other thing that's tied to this is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so the Grand Canyon, the rumor was that the Smithsonian Museum, like the Giants, right? They had collected some of the relics that were Egyptian relics found inside of the Grand Canyon. Now, note that if you go to the Grand Canyon today, there are restricted areas where you are not allowed to go to.
Yeah. It's
Right.
weird.
Now, there are people who have ventured off and found these amazing monoliths that resemble Egyptian iconography and art, right? And when I say iconography, these are symbols and little pieces, right, that exist around there. So, what if this is real?
That would be quite. I think that would be revolutionary.
You
But I
know,
think the world would also go into shambles.
talking about when I went to San Agustin, there's like a little museum over there in San Agustin,
Yeah.
and the lady was talking about when the Spaniards came there, they described the natives as giants, like they were like giants. The natives that were in that location were literally giants, like people really tall, and she was talking to my kids, and when I heard that, I was like, giants. I went straight to the lady. I was like, tell me more. And yeah, that's how they describe it through,
Hungry
through
for
history,
knowledge.
you know what I mean? And it was very interesting, you know?
Yeah.
So this is one that's very open-ended. This is something that's been recently hashing out a lot on TikTok, social media. There are books that correlate an origin that's different from what we've been taught in school, right? Now, this is not the first time this has happened, right? Now, if history serves us right, this could be the first civilization that did it, but where did the Mayans go?
Nobody knows, right?
No, actually, you can see the carbon footprint, right? So some civilizations move to different
Migrate.
locations, and then they change, right? So you have the Mesoamericans, right?
Yeah.
You have a different group of people, and eventually it leads to a different change in name. It's like when you go to Peru, you have the Incans.
Yeah.
What if they're descendants of the Mayans?
It could be they both were good on maths and stuff like that.
Right, they were amazing, and the fact that they did it in Peru, which is more mountainous than in Mexico, right?
And also when you compare their deities from the Egyptian deities and the over here, the pyramids over here in Mexico, their deities, they have some deities in common, like snake and stuff like that, and
Right.
so they see like people with like a snake with feathers, stuff like that, and kind of like resembles some stuff here and there. And they were so apart one from each other, but they still resemble some stuff.
So there's also adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we don't talk about or we hear a lot about, right? There are cultures that overthrow another. One civilization overthrows another, and they adapt that civilization's
Back end prowess and such.
and then rebrand it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that where? Let's see if you guys know.
We've seen it
In Greek mythology.
Greek mythology, yeah.
So we know Poseidon as Poseidon, but what is he known to by the Romans?
oh, Neptune.
Neptune, right?
Yeah.
The god of war is what?
It was
Ares.
but then people said Kratos.
No,
Or not
no,
Kratos,
no.
sorry.
Well, that's the bit. So if it's Ares, but they call him what?
What do they call him? I never knew that.
Neptune. Not Neptune.
Mars.
Neptune's
Mars.
Mars.
Right?
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
hon- to be completely honest.
So they started associating the gods of the Greek pantheon with locations that dealt with astrology.
With the planets. different
Yeah,
planets.
right? So
yeah.
so you start looking at these things and saying that was an adaptation. We knew that the Greeks were there before.
Like the planet Venus, they were saying men's come from Mars and women's come from Venus.
Right.
And then this goddess, fertility goddess, I think they're saying it's from Venus too, right?
Mhm.
Something like that.
So there's a lot of things that can be attributed to this, right?
Mhm.
And I think that it could be one of those situations where a civilization got conquered, which they did by who?
It was the
No, and don't go that far. It's like when you see the time of the Inquisition, right? When the Spain came to these islands, they conquered the Indians, and they submit the Indians to the Christian religion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they forget about your gods. Now we want to implement Christianism here.
Yeah.
So you see how when a big country or power controls the other one, they do a lot of changes on the people, like the culture change.
The beatings will continue until you reform.
Exactly.
That kind
Exactly.
Pretty much.
So yeah. So this really struck my interest because I remember in Ohio there is a special mound that is like shape of a serpent, and it's one of those very indigenous protected places. And I said, wow, but nobody made this in our current era, and this is there and it's being preserved. God knows how many other things have been discovered.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
yeah.
That could be tied to something further out, right?
Something that's
and
tied
here's
to
the
something
reality
seen.
of it. Here's the reality of it. The problem is that we're taught one thing, and if this becomes the gospel, this newfound thing, and it's accepted, then it changes history drastically.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you're in school, they teach you what? Who discovered America?
Christopher Columbus.
Was he really the first person?
No,
Nope.
no.
Who was it?
There's been evidence that the Vikings, the Chinese,
The natives.
yeah.
So there you have it. Like,
It was just the most popular one.
yeah, basically.
Yeah, the most popular and most evil.
However, you know, it doesn't mean that we can't leave the door open for history to reveal itself and for us to say, hey, let's see how this pans out.
Let's take a deep delve into the unknown of the history.
Right,
Because
for-
history, there's still so much we don't know about history.
Matt Meek says the U.S. mirror Egypt. Ever heard of Memphis? You see?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely. Mr.
true.
Meeks. So yeah.
Even in the driver license of Memphis has a pyramid.
Yeah, and notice how even in government you have obelisk.
Mm-hmm.
These obelisks originated in Egypt.
You know that one of the obelisks that is in the Vatican, I think used to be from Egypt. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not mistaken.
And even some of the archaeology, right? Like you have archaeology that for example, Corinthian pillars, right? That's all Greek and Roman architecture that
Yeah.
was adopted in the US.
When you go to Washington, there's a lot of
A lot of that.
yeah, a lot of that. The structure look more Roman than anything else.
Right. So So you kind of get this idea that it kind of moves and it kind of readapts. And the story changes over time.
I have another theory. I think this one just came up. What happened if the pyramids were our plants, right? And that's why they're different from the ones in Mexico and the one from Egypt, because they were different. Like we have here Duke Energy and QIA.
So you want to know something? That is not out of the picture, because they did mention that due to the recent discovery of those coils underneath, and these are massive. This is like 3 stories, 4 stories, coiled up with copper and different minerals and things that produce electricity.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is, like, what is this for? I like my theory. It's a Stargate.
Could be.
I love that.
Stargate. That sounds really
so. And I'm not talking about the series. The series was okay. I'm talking about the movie, right? Like the one with MacGyver.
Hey,
You remember?
no. I don't like the series. I like the movie with what was that guy? The actor.
The movie.
Kurt Russell.
No, Kurt Russell. Oh, that's no, that's the series.
No,
I'm sorry, that's the sequel.
No. They
Was it with Kurt Russell?
yeah.
Hold on, look it up.
Yeah.
What was
Stargate
it?
the movie.
Stargate the movie.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right, because the series had the guy from MacGyver, and the guy who voices Kratos in the God of War Ragnarok is in that series as one of the
Christopher Judge?
No
way. Hold on.
Yeah, he's in it, really young.
You see, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell was in it. That's right. Oh,
there you go.
Kurt Russell, I apologize. You are king in my eyes.
Yeah.
Big Trouble in Little China was an amazing
my
movie.
God. Big Trouble in Little China, man.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, you're the man.
Good old Jack Burton.
Don't get me started on Big Trouble in Little China.
What was the other? Escape from LA.
Escape from New York.
New York, yeah.
So I mean, of course, Kurt Russell. But going back to Stargate, I like that idea, right? That they were so ahead of their time. And you know, like when you look at the depictions of the gods, right? They wore these helmets with these animal things.
Yeah.
They really captured the essence of that in that movie, right? And then you go to places like in Peru, there's these walls that have like these open spaces that look like a gate for you to pass by.
So maybe when they were active, it was just like, boom, portal.
Yeah, so there are rumors, right? That it's a possibility that these things were generating enough power to create these portals to travel through time or from location to location. So you know that in Earth we have something called ley lines.
Yes.
And these ley lines emit energy, right? And this is now going into like the science, right? The Tesla stuff, the stuff that makes me go crazy and drool, right? The whole thing of 369, energy, frequency, and vibration. How does this whole thing work to make things happen? But you also have biblical texts that kind of reference energy, frequency, and vibration. And I'll tell you which story. The Walls of Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
I've never read the Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, the Walls of Jericho,
they used a special ram's horn that emitted a certain frequency. And when he blew the horn, the wall was breaking. Right?
Okay.
So there's a lot
they start marching around the wall, and then they blew the trumpet.
There was a horn.
Yeah, horn. Yeah.
There was a.
It has a name. It's the Kaifa, something like that.
But yeah, it's
Shofar.
So it's amazing, right? How history kind of plants that seed. Maybe the story's not clear, but it makes sense.
Shofar.
And then you also have, it's funny you say Jafar. What's the name of the bad guy in Aladdin? Jafar. But it plants the seed, and you can even go even way back, right? You can go to like the Book of Enoch, where they talk about instruments and technology, because he traveled through space and
He
time.
went to the 10th heaven.
Yeah.
So he went all over. He would take back 2 angels, put him to like a spaceship or whatever, and he went all over, up and up and up and up. He saw all the different heavens,
and then
he get to the 10th heaven.
That's where God is, and I think he was the only person that saw God's face. Because not even the angels were able to see his face.
Not able to see his glorious presence.
Yeah, so that's interesting. But when he came back as a human, the reason why he's the one of 2 humans that was able to enter heaven was because when he came back, everything he knew was gone.
Mhm.
Which is kind of like he went back in time and everything is gone. That's weird. Right?
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going too far on the deep end because it kind of ties into it, right?
Yeah.
And
I heard he also is gonna become Metatron. The trend, the
Megatron?
No, Metatron, something like that. It's like an angel.
One shall stand.
Oh,
and one shall
Metatron. Yeah.
Metatron.
Metatron's the robotic angel.
Yeah, it's an angel that's supposed to come on at the end of the times, and
Yeah.
Right.
they're saying that's Enoch.
So there's a lot that we can peg into this mystery, but it's very. You see how we get excited about talking about this because you see that it's just one layer after another
And
of
it keeps
mystery.
going.
And the more you peel this, the more you unearth stuff. There's a place called, and I don't want to butcher it, called Göbekli Tepe.
Oh yeah.
So this place was unearthed recently, several years ago, and apparently there's these stones carved out with what appears to be images of dinosaurs, birds, and
Yeah.
different creatures that in today's time we are aware about. But the stones, after carbon dating, predate everything we've ever known, including Sumerian information.
Oh,
Wow.
So
you telling me the T-Rex used to stomp around there? Oh yeah.
So it's just food for thought, really,
Yeah.
right? When you take it into account what this really is, right? It's just layering out all these things. And what I come to the conclusion of, what makes a great mystery is that when you discover something, you get that, oh, there's something else
There's
to it.
more to it.
And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
keeps continuous. But if you dig a deep enough hole, you might not be able to get out of it.
yeah.
Right?
You might end up, going missing. Who knows?
So
Matt makes sense. God looks like Kurt Russell.
you know what, Matt? I agree.
Well, he was one of the Celestials on the Marvel movie, something like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have probably beaten all of them. He probably could beat Thanos too, just as Kurt Russell.
Right.
I mean, not we're not. So
Kurt Russell's just that built different, I guess.
so let us be clear.
Let me show you Kurt.
He's second on the list. Chuck Norris is still number one.
Oh
It's-
yeah.
Chuck Norris. Let's be real. Chuck
So-
Norris is just goated. Anyway, let's carry on.
So let's now go into the gods of Egypt, right? Because it gets even stranger as we keep unraveling this onion, right? That we keep peeling. It seems endless. As we mentioned before, every god in the pantheon of Egyptian mythology or history shows that a specific god is depicted with an animal head. And there are some exceptions to the rule, right? There's one that looks like a zombie, but it could be a serpent from what I'm looking at in the imagery. But each one served its purpose. Some were healers, some was for fertility, others were for controlling day and night cycles, others were for harvesting, right? But these gods had a purpose.
They had a pantheon.
Yeah,
Pantheon of gods.
So very polytheistic society. There was only one that stuck out to me. That's Akhenaten, because Akhenaten was the one that really transcended this idea that, oh, you shouldn't believe in all these gods because there's only one God,
Yeah.
right? And that God was the sun god.
Ooh, come
Sun Wukong. So he believed that there was this one God, is the sun god, and he developed a city of, I think it's called Amarta, and this city was to lay reverence to the sun god. Now the catch is that when he became the pharaoh, he wanted to remove every single god from history. It just so happened that it backfired, and they desecrated almost all of his stuff, his history. Almost like they wanted to make him disappear. Now, when you look at let me see if I can go there. When you look at the statues and the stone, and the history behind this particular being, he's not depicted as the same type of pharaoh that you see in all other statues in all other places in Egypt. He's very different. He has a pot belly. He's, slender waisted with big hips, has an elongated face, and has an elongated skull.
It's called. Yeah.
Now, we already know.
Xenomorph.
So now here's the catch. The belief is that he could be an ancient astronaut, or excuse me, I'm just trying to get my head together here. He spoke to that he's an ancient astronaut himself, that he is potentially a hybrid of a human species, or what we call a star child, or that he was visited by an extraterrestrial that told him everything he needed to know. So that is a possibility.
It is a possibility.
The statues show that he has a very long face, very weird, abnormal structure, which is very abnormal because they were all depicted what we call the triangular shaped body, right?
Yeah.
Broad shoulders, thin waist, slender body, very fit. They all had this very square face. They looked very stoic and a ruler. Yeah. This is what this guy looked completely different.
That's weird.
So it was very weird. He was also married to Nefertiti. Right?
Isn't Nefertiti a goddess too?
Yeah. But they had elongated skulls. Now there are skulls that were discovered in Egypt that were elongated. However, there was something unique about them. And what was unique about them was that they did we as humans, we developed something called the sagittal crest.
Yeah.
These are like little lines that get created, which is like when we're born, it's an opening where we would breathe and it's soft.
Yeah.
But then it would get hard and that crest would form, showing it's almost like seeing the lines of where your head was soft at one point. Yeah. Their skulls didn't, well, not theirs specifically, but the ones that were found in Egypt didn't have the sagittal crest. It was completely solid.
That's weird.
Now, we know that historically in Africa, there are tribes that do have a practice for elongating their heads.
Yeah, they put like a wrap or something to the baby, like with their babies. But they still have the seams on the cranium,
That's correct.
But if they didn't have that, that means they're probably like a hybrid, or they're not from here, or maybe they were created. Imagine they were, because normally you have that in your head because that need to be soft in order for the woman to give birth. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if they didn't have that, maybe they were created.
It's possible.
It's
possible, but he was a very unique individual. Even his hieroglyphic art depict him almost as if he looks like an alien. So it's one of the most unique features in that period, if not the most unique when it comes to being different from all the pharaohs, right? So like, for example, everybody knows King Tut. Everybody knows, Ra and all these other people. This one, however, nobody knew until they pointed it out. Hey, this guy's different, and here's why. And you go, oh, crap.
Now, when you look at it, it's like, he looks a little bit off compared to everyone else.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Anubis. What was he? Dog or cat?
He's a dog, which now goes into, and we're going to go into that. But you're absolutely right? Anubis is a god with a face of a dog, but he's a god. Pharaohs kind of all look the same.
Yeah.
And you could tell because their crowns would resemble the god that they were worshiping or representing.
Yeah.
So someone would have a serpent, another one would have the falcon face, another one would have the Anubis features on the crown, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what they call that crown, but
I've always wanted one. Those look
me
so
too.
nice.
I think they look amazing.
The mask? You mean the mask or the
No,
crown?
the mask. Why would I want the mask? I want the crown.
Yeah, exactly.
You see like the
Like the one that's like goes.
like King Tut.
Yeah, it looks like a lion's mane.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would want it for. Just because it looks like.
And I want the beard too.
The beard.
The beard. Yeah, that's like that. I call it a beard attachment. I'm more impressed with that because I want to know if that was actually real and how did they put it on.
How did they put it on? Right.
Probably some. I mean, they could either be really, really blessed with the genes. Let me tell you, I've seen some people's beards grow really long because of their genes, or they could be like a wig, like a wig back then with some paste that they.
So
use.
yeah,
They used to use a lot of wigs.
so now we're gonna go into the next part, which is what we grew up on, right? And I think for 1 second we should jump into the Mummy.
Oh yeah, pretty
You're not-
familiar with this guy.
So the Mummy in ancient Egypt, hiding in the tombs, screaming his mouth off. You know, probably asking you to come show. He wants to show you some things.
We have such sights to show you.
They're welcoming you. They want you to see. They want you to see their gold and their riches and their opulence. But they want to do so with the idea that you're not coming out.
Yeah, you get to see, but you won't be able to tell nobody. Sorry.
You know, you can take a look. It's like that song Hotel California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can't never leave.
Yeah.
So, the first mummy ever discovered was in 1615 by a gentleman named Pietro della Valle, Italiano, an Italian composer.
Meatballs.
An Italian composer.
What he was doing there? What he was looking for?
Well, he was an adventurer because back
Inspiration.
then. So let me tell you, being an adventurer at the time was a job.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been so fun.
It's a job. So back then, you would go to.
The Adventurers Guild.
No, you wouldn't go. You would go to whoever the king or the duke or whatever that person was and say, "Hey, listen, I'm on the verge of exploring something. I need funding. I promise you, I will bring you back any of the relics and treasures that exist, but I need you to fund this so I can go." And they would get provisions, and they would get a boat. They would get money. They would get all the resources they need. So they can come back and bring that to their country.
Why we cannot do that this now, right?
It's different now because we know that things that were taken from somewhere else doesn't belong to you.
It's called stealing, Frank.
It's called stealing, Frank.
Damn it.
So now, this guy, he finds the first mummy, he takes it to Rome and puts it on display. So the Romans, right? And when I say the Romans, it wasn't necessarily like not the traditional Romans, but the people in Rome that were in charge. You know, they put it on display. People, you know, paid a lot of money to go see it, I bet. And he became very well known for first mummy ever being entombed. Right. However, the first rumored curse happened in 1922. None other than King Tutankhamun's discovery. King Tut. So
King Tut is Tutankhamun's, right?
yeah, Tutankhamun is Tut for short. So now, this happened in 1922. A lot of people that have gotten to Egypt during that period. This is a period where we didn't, you know, we have the FDA, the CDC, we have a lot of medical studies and things that show us that under certain conditions, you can put yourself in harm's way. You might inhale too much of a specific mineral, could be damaging to your lungs. Apparently, a lot of explorers died during, even after exploring and uncovering a tomb, because when they would open up these tombs, these gases and these bacteria would go into their bodies.
They would get hit with the meanest curse known to mankind. They would breathe in so much dust. It was bad.
However, this is not all true.
Yes.
There has been no determination of people, because since then it's been regulated how you explore these things. You got to get permits. You have to get the right people involved. And this is very controlled archaeology, paleontology nowadays.
What if they were killed just because they knew some secrets that nobody should know or something? Because I heard that the people of Egypt, they're very, very, they don't let anybody just go there and dig. Like
Oh no. So this is now in today's time. back then the world was different.
Okay.
The economy was different. The power structure was different. If you had the funding and you watered the right hands, they would even give you people to go see places and explore. Because these people knew the secrets. And don't get it wrong, you know, a lot of the times the same people would go into these tombs on themselves to steal the jewelry, steal the relics.
Karma.
Right?
That would get the meanest hit of karma.
Right? Now, there's been rumors of artifacts that are cursed, and people who've obtained these artifacts pass away in an odd way. There are rumors of people dying 24 hours after opening up a tomb and being in perfectly good health.
Cursed objects were quite normal.
So
Back
this
then,
gave
so-
this gave birth to this idea that it's the mummy's curse, right? Because what happens? Remember we spoke earlier.
Yeah.
What we said, when the mummy gets buried, it has to go to the afterlife. It has its own treasures and relics. So
Bring that wealth to the afterlife, you know?
exactly, because that kind of shows that he was a person of importance, a person of opulence, a person in power, right? Because you didn't build a pyramid for just anyone. They were built specifically for kings and pharaohs, right? So even though there's explanations that are logical, they have yet to been proven as definitive,
Yes.
right? And even current people that have gone through some issues, it's still left up in the air. Now, the curse of the mummy. Why the curse of the mummy? Well, when I was a kid, the mummy was a big deal. Boris Karloff, who played the mummy,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about Abbott and Costello, I'm talking about the mummy from Universal Monsters. It was a big deal. This idea that someone could rise from the dead, right, and pretty much chase you for
Hunt you down.
intruding on your privacy, or intruding on their privacy. It always kind of like draw, because you have other species that do that, or other legends that do that.
Yeah.
What happens when you take a leprechaun's gold?
Good luck. It's hunting you.
You know, in theory, when you're a kid, they teach you the nice part. Oh, you find it's gold, he's gonna give you everything.
He's gonna give
In
you a
truth-
piece of gold. Nope.
Nope, you're in for a rude awakening. So these kind of systems, I call them systems, right? Or tropes,
Yeah.
right? They kind of fall in line with the same thing about people being married to their objects, right? To the point where they can build an energy around it that manifests that negative presence when you take something that doesn't belong to you, belongs to that person, even in the afterlife. There's been proof of that in ghost hauntings,
Yeah.
right?
Albert, was it? What's the doll's name?
Albert.
Annabelle.
It was.
There's
there was
Annabelle, but there's
Albert.
Yeah,
There's-
we saw the doll.
Yeah, that doll. That's one crazy example of it. You know.
So there are cursed objects.
We talked about this on in one of my freakishly frightening facts. There's an object, I forgot the name of it, but anyone who held
The Hope Diamond.
it was the Hope Diamond. Yes. Anyone who held it died a gruesome death 24 hours after.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, right? You discover it, you know, yes, you want to relish on, oh, I found this amazing piece of
Just don't touch
treasure.
it.
And then you want to walk away with it because that's your proof.
Yeah.
But what if, right? Like, what if you do take it and then this thing comes out of the tomb and starts chasing you, right? But that's the story behind The Mummy, the actual Universal movie. And then if you look at like the ones with Brendan Fraser,
Oh, that was
Right?
really good. That was really good.
they were
Actually,
really good.
I never watched the ones with Brendan Fraser. Like,
Well, you need to watch them.
I've heard of them, but I've never seen them.
Like by far, I mean, you could watch all of them except the Scorpion King. That shit was ass. Don't watch those. Anything that, do not watch that ever. But it was good.
Yeah.
These were good depictions of, and even the Tom Cruise one.
Yeah, that was good too.
I only know Tom Cruise.
Shout out
from
to
one
Tom
thing.
Cruise, man. You're the best.
Yeah, that's actually Frank's close
No,
friend.
no, wait. Shout out to Tom Cruise. He's the third best, only next to Chuck Norris and Kurt Russell.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Listen, that man has survived so many Mission Impossibles. It's a little bit crazy, and he did Top Gun.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. So
You know, I got a fun fact here of the Tutankhamun's meteoric iron dagger. So when they found the mummy of Tutankhamun, they found a dagger that was made of a meteor. Yeah.
That sounds actually really cool, and I would
It is
invest
really
in that
cool.
because
It says that the Tutankhamun's meteoric iron dagger, also known as the Tutankhamun's iron dagger and King Tut's dagger, is an iron blade dagger from the tomb of the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. Wow. On the table of composition and homogeneity closely correlate with meteorite compositions and homogeneity. The material for the blade is determined to have originated by way of a meteoric landing. The dagger is currently displayed at the Egyptian Museum in the Cairo.
It's in Cairo. In Cairo.
Right here, look. This is the picture.
Oh.
Made from a meteor. So once again, the legend of the ancient astronaut is closer than you think.
It's possible.
You see?
So a lot of this thing with the mummy, it draws a lot of attention because of movie monsters. There's never been a report of a mummy ever getting out of its tomb. However,
Yet.
Well, science fiction becomes science fact. So why not? Why not this case, right? However, I just think it's great storytelling. I think it's a great way to prevent people from going into a tomb to try to rob, and these stories got made up.
it's like telling your kid, don't go out after dark. The boogeyman or something will take you. It's like that.
Hey,
The hugging Molly.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, Molly. Hey, Matt Mix says, give a lady a few inches and she'll become your ruler. What is the no, I was reading about the Scorpion King. Oh, he said, I like the Mummy movie. Scorpion King did blow. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Then I guess I'm not watching the Scorpion King.
So listen, if I had to get rid of anything from Egyptian mythology or anything Egypt, is the Scorpion King.
There was no Scorpion King, right? In
No,
mythology.
listen, if there was one, I hope it's not The Rock. He's a great wrestler. I liked him in Fast and Furious, but the Scorpion King, I mean, I'm surprised he did it in his career because that thing was horrible.
Isn't he your cousin?
No, he's not. No, he's not.
J-Rock, The Rock.
No.
He's actually a distant relative, guys. Come on. Now.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so what makes this intriguing, right, is that the process for mummies to become mummies, for pharaohs that need to become mummies, how they become mummies, right? They go through this crazy process, and we spoke about it earlier, embalming. They put this special salt called we know it as peat salt. It's a very dry. It dries your body a lot. Fun fact. The people who study like ancient Chinese martial arts, they dry their skin with peat salt, and they punch it so that it makes their skin tougher. It makes it like leather, so when you get hit, it cuts.
Oh
your
yeah,
skin
you feel it.
Yeah, so this is what they're talking about here, right?
It is true they used to grab your brain through your nose.
Yes, so they had special tools.
A pick essentially that
Yeah.
you'd stick it up through your nose, and through your nose you can reach the brain, and you were able to like stay pulling it out. So that's how was one way of getting the brain out of a mummy. Or like
They were cut in pieces, right? Or something.
something like that. Like it was just more so of like a really violent scooper. So like
Yeah.
they would stick it in your nose, and it would go really far. It would go past your eye and all that. It would go into your brain, and they would like sort of make it a mush and pull it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, like Total Recall when Arnold is taking that thing from his nose.
Oh my God, I remember that.
We might need to have a movie reference count on distorted realities now.
So outside. So here's another fun fact. You know that pharaohs had a person was hired to clean their rectum.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one too. It's called a bidet.
No, this is an actual person did the cleaning.
That's weird.
That was a.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's actually a fact, and they were given all the privileges of royalty.
Just for wiping arrows.
It's worse than that. They actually did the rectal cleansing of the person,
Wow.
or the pharaoh, or the person in charge.
Just take a bucket of water and just.
So yeah, this is something else that I learned recently, and it was It's crazy, right? Because you wouldn't think that they actually had that kind of practice.
And they got money. They got.
Do you think they have to get a degree or like a special certification for that?
So you have the mummy,
Yes.
right? That is done in practice. Now we don't know all the techniques. We do know that there's a god involved, but we're gonna leave that for the very last thing. However, there is an unnatural way of preserving bodies.
Honey. Oh, wait, no. Unnatural. Never mind.
Royal wife cleaner.
It has like
So-
a thing of a pharaoh on it.
So in Ireland, they discovered these things called bog mummies. Now this is more preserved than the Egyptian method, and all they did was sink into a peat swamp, or what they call a peat bog, which is like a small swamp, and their bodies naturally preserved. Now there are pictures in a museum, and there are pictures on display on the slide, but there's a museum that kept these, and I mean, you can see almost every single detail. Even the hair is still there. So the preservation technique, although natural, turned out being a lot better than the methods the Egyptians were doing. The rumor is that these particular bodies that were found were either killed with intent or they were sacrifices due to a religious practice or sect, right? But there you have it. That's it. And now the fun part. Where does this originate, right? This whole idea. Today we call it embalming, right? We know that they use specific chemicals, they do specific things to the body when a person dies to make sure they can preserve it for viewing, but then in its natural state,
It will
eventually
decompose
it will
and
decompose, right? So that leads to our final slide, Anubis.
Oh yeah, I know this guy. I'm very familiar with this
So
guy.
let me just remove Anubis.
No, I wonder what they use in Puerto Rico for the Puerto Rico. When they do this, have you seen what they do to the when people that die over there? They put them in a motorcycle. They put them inside an ambulance.
So I'm gonna say this without getting too crazy about it, because I'm familiar with it, because I know people that do this for a living. What happens is your body, once you die, starts going to a state where it hardens itself, right? It releases all the gases, and you end up with what's called rigor mortis, right?
Yeah.
If you are able to position the arms and the legs the way you want to, right, over a period of time, you can have it stay like that. So if your arms are positioned like, like hanging or standing and posing, you can make your body do that. And then all they simply do is they harden the body with chemicals for a period of time, and when they're ready to put it in a casket, they put it in a casket. Now, the crazy part is in Puerto Rico, people want to keep these bodies for eternity preserved.
Wow.
There's a person that has already like 2 years with the body standing in a corner every day. So it's insane, and I'm not questioning the person. Person probably was very well loved, but in practice, when a person is gone, you go to either cremation or proper burial process, right?
Yeah.
But Anubis was kind of like the forefather for that, right? He was the godfather, the creator of the whole embalming technique that the Egyptians adopted. Now, here's where it gets crazy. These techniques were passed down from family to family that were doing this in Egypt. However, there's no scripture that shows how they did it.
Wow.
So they were gatekeeping.
Yeah, that's possible. However, it's Anubis, right?
Yeah.
How did they learn this stuff? Let's bring it full circle. Earlier, we questioned how they learned to do batteries. How did they learn these embalming techniques?
Somebody came from the future.
So it goes back to that, right?
Yes.
And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of these questions go back to one thing: how.
What, where, why?
No, it's not what, when, where, why. It's just how. How did this happen, right? How did you get that knowledge?
Yeah, that's the big question.
The
right there.
who, you can leave it up to the imagination. It could be me 10 years from now on a spaceship time traveling, right?
Guys, it's confirmed. J-Rock is the one who taught them how
Don't
to.
tell anyone.
And now you know if distorted reality goes dark for a while.
Maybe I'm just a human disguised as a demon.
Hello, guys.
Oh.
I'm here today.
So yeah, so maybe I'm a witch. So yeah, no, but it's the how part, right? There has to be a way to explain how this knowledge was attained. Because it doesn't matter who it is at the end of the day, they got it from somewhere. Someone got it, and even if you had it, how did you learn it?
Yeah.
Someone has to teach you that.
It's
But not everybody will get mummified, right?
For the most part,
only the important people,
only the
right?
important people.
yeah. Mummification is like it's like the equivalent of having a royal ceremony for someone's death.
So the only that were able to go to the afterlife with their belongings were the
Ones of wealth and power, essentially.
wow.
Yeah.
I think that haven't changed that much.
No, yeah. Frank might be onto something.
Well,
Frank
yeah,
might be
you
onto something.
know, well, you know that so you know in India there is a caste system, right? Well, in Egypt that was kind of like their caste system. Like people that were on top were treated differently from those from the bottom, including what services were provided to them. You know, for example, you had a royal butt cleaner, right? If you was a peasant, you had to wipe your ass off with sand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Probably with sandpaper.
Oh.
so there you have it.
You were a noble. You probably use like a
You probably use bounty.
papyrus, the paper for to write. Oh.
Right. So now I guess we're gonna
Charming.
segue to thoughts, right? I'm gonna start. Let's go back to the AI video. Share it one last time. Thoughts, Mr. Valentine. What is your take on this whole Egypt experience and what we spoke about today?
A lot of this I didn't really know about, to be honest. I am familiar with, a bit of Egyptian lore and such, like Anubis and the gods. But to know that they were so ahead of their time and they had access to things that we wouldn't have access to years later, kind of puts it in perspective for me. Like, it's just my mind is now rushing with the question, how? As we talked about like we stated earlier, how did they make this? Who taught them this? Like, I would really want to know about that. That would be like, it's so cool. So I would definitely be looking into Egypt more and the Egyptian backgrounds and such. But who knows? Maybe Distorted Realities could take a trip there. Who knows?
Mr. Walls,
Yes, sir.
what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on Egypt is my favorite culture. I mean, about the ancient Egypt. And it's so full of mystery. What you might call it? Intrigue, history, anything. I mean, one day I would like to visit the pyramids. It's amazing. All the things. Every day is like a new discovery. You know?
So I see that you brought your book, The Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Have you read it?
I haven't read it yet. I'm afraid of
He's gonna get hit with the curse of Ra when he opens the page.
reading it. I'm
You're gonna start
afraid of
breathing in
reading
sand.
it, but I've been seeing their pages and stuff. But the last time I saw it was on the movie, right?
Right.
And when they opened this book, things didn't went well.
It's like the Necronomicon in Evil Dead. Yeah.
But I was gonna tell you a fact about the ancient people of Kemet, also known as the ancient Egyptian, were a civilization that flourished in the Nile Valley, were renowned for their sophisticated culture, events in mathematics, medicine, and astronomy, and their liberal religious belief and practices. So those are like before the Egyptians. They were called the Kemet.
The Kemet. It's
You see, it's like it was like an evolution, like Pokemon.
Pokemon with Egyptians.
They evolved from the Kemet to the Egyptians.
So yeah, so I think that the whole process of Egypt, it sparks intrigue in every person that makes that initial discovery. right? When you look at the desert sands, the hot scorching sun, person with a camel taking a walk towards the location,
Hearing the desert flute.
right? Yeah, the sitar playing, the idea that there's these giant objects just at your reach, an oasis somewhere parked with some hidden secret or gem there for you. Even the dangers seem exciting. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it makes you want to journey. Like, there's no journey without a bit of danger.
It's like I
And
want to go there and get pinched by a scarab,
Right.
You know, or-
Indiana
And that's-
Jones.
and outside of Egypt's beauty, that only amplifies the mystique and it makes it even more beautiful, right? Because it just leaves so much questions, right? You have beautiful iconography and hieroglyphic designs. You even have, and this we didn't speak about, there are hieroglyphics that show helicopters and different things
Yeah.
that, I mean, were picked up later on,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the fact that they have it there, it's kind of interesting.
Right? So, you know, it leaves more questions than answer. And it leads you to question ultimately is, did someone actually come from the future to tell them this? To give them that knowledge?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, and let's say somebody from the future, a time traveler, or did another worldly being that was way more advanced?
Just decided to be like, hey, let's
You know.
help these people out.
And this is a proven fact for anyone who doesn't know. Anything that has ever been done must first be taught, right? It just doesn't happen by random chance that two people put sticks together, rubbed them really fast, and said fire, right? It doesn't work, at least not in my mind, because when you have a child and they're born, you do what?
You teach them.
Bingo.
You teach
It's
them the
almost
way.
like it's hard coded in our DNA to educate, right? So if a person was never educated to understand these concepts, right? How is it that they're doing it just off of pure luck? How did they know that by creating fire, you can use it to cook?
Yeah.
That you can melt steel with it?
Someone had to teach them.
Someone had to be the catalyst for changing.
Unless they
They
just
thought.
threw a piece of meat on there and was like, ooh, sizzle. Oh, food.
So yeah, so what happens with the whole Egypt thing is it becomes the sandbox to your imagination.
Yeah.
Because now you think about, like, years later, other civilizations, the Mayan civilization, they had pyramids and temples, right? Slightly different, right? But then when you look at their iconography, their hieroglyphics, you're seeing a guy like what appears to be on a rocket ship, and
Yeah.
it's called the Giver of Life. He has a mask on. He looks like he's
Yeah, yeah.
traveling or ascending to a different plane, right? All of a sudden, you're just going crazy, going through all these processes. Like, what could be causing this, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about exploring those unknown areas, and I'm really intrigued with this whole U.S. stuff.
It makes
You know.
sense. It makes a lot of sense. The
You know,
U.S. used to be the.
Well, it can, and like I said, I leave it a chance. It can or it cannot,
Yeah.
right? It all depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a beautiful segue to understanding that these things can be explored, evaluated, and if you dig deep enough, you might find what you're looking for.
Remember, guys, discuss the unknown and discover your truths.
There
That's
you
right.
go. There you go.
So yeah, so I think it's time to call it the night.
Before we call it a night, I got Matt Meeks says, please feature J-Rock, bring me back some cash.
Oh, is that?
And you were talking about you were coming from the future or the past.
Well, I'll make sure, Matt, that I take care of those who remember me in the past when I come from the future.
He also said that there are a lot of single mommies in America right now. Wow.
So yeah, I think it's time to sign off. And I just want to wish everyone a happy rest of your week. Have a great weekend.
I think it was a great show.
I think it was a great
A
episode.
lot of information.
fun.
A lot of information. I mean, being really good.
So any final words, guys?
Hey, awesome.
All right. Mr. Walls?
Guys, thank you for the support. Thank you, J-Rock. Thank you, Mr. Valentine. I love these topics. Well, wish we can do it more often. These tribal topics. And thank you for everybody in the chat, man, Mix, and everybody out there, all our followers. Remember to check our merch store in our YouTube channel. All the links are over there. We're in Rumble, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube,
Spotify.
Facebook, Spotify. So thank you for the support, guys.
All right, guys. So this is J Rock signing out. We want to wish you guys all the best. And thank you for the love and support. Thank you, Matt Meeks. Thank you, the people on Facebook, the people on Rumble, people on YouTube. And those of you who are going to see this on or listen to it on Spotify, you'll have it there by tomorrow. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Shout out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Distorted Realities Origins, the Mummy audio podcast. Here are your hosts, J Rock and Frank Walls.